the first media consulting podcast, The Business Chronicles, where we dive deep into the stories of successful business owners. Here's your host, Didi and Nicholas. Thanks for joining today. Let's talk.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited. My name is Didi and Nicholas. I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm so excited to bring in Sandi Smith. She's a physical therapist with Pelvic Pro Therapy, and she's going to bring a lot of insight on how her business has been successful. She's going to give some inspiration to those who are wanting to be business owners or aspiring to be business owners or entrepreneurs. So we're going to dive right in and say good morning to Sandi. How you doing, Sandi?
Good morning, DDA. Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So we're so excited for you to share with our listeners about your successes and your background. So let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I wanted to be a physical therapist since I was 16 years old, and I knew that that was my calling in life, and it's been a dream job. It took me a little while to get there because I did a little roundabout way, but I graduated from the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta. And I actually practiced up in Atlanta for, almost 25 years in a number of different positions, including self-employment up there. And so then decided to move back to my hometown, which is Orlando. And I did with another company there for a number of years. And 1 year ago, I decided to branch out on my own once again, even though I said I'd never do it. I did it again, and I'm glad I did because it gives me a lot of autonomy and, of course, a lot of satisfaction and being able to serve my patients to my best capacity.
I love that. And you know what's interesting is that you've had so much experience over the years. You went to school, you got the designation, and it's not easy, right?
It's not easy. You know, pretty much when you're in PT school, you eat, drink, and sleep it. And it's extremely competitive. Even today, it's very competitive. And it's been one of the top 5 jobs or careers to have for many decades. And it remains number 1 or 2, I believe, insofar as job satisfaction and, of course, income potential and things like that. So, you know, being a physical therapist is extremely rewarding.
That is so great to hear. I love that. You know, and I was looking at your website, and I think that in your mission statement, you said something, you stated that we believe that optimal pelvic health is essential to living a full and vibrant life. I love that. And, you know, talking about improving or overcoming pelvic pain, improving bladder and bowel function. So there's so much involved in what you do, correct?
There is so much involved. And so the first 25 years, I was really focusing on manual physical therapy and orthopedics. So I treat, you know, pretty much head to toe and all of those conditions. But 7 years ago, I actually took a fellowship in Gainesville, Florida, with a company called Clear Passage, and their specialty was treating things like bowel obstruction, infertility, chronic pelvic pain. And so that's really where I got the training to become a pelvic specialist. And, you know, sometimes things pick you rather than you picking them. And that's kind of what happened. I was actually reading a book from an author in Gainesville, and it's the only reason I looked at that job listing, but it was a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And it's a beautiful book, and it really got me through kind of a tough time in my life. And Michael lives in Gainesville. And so crazy story is that book led me to an entirely new door that opened for me. And I'm so happy of what I'm doing right now because it is a lot less stress on me as a therapist, because in the outpatient orthopedic setting, you do see 2 patients at a time. It's very fast paced. It's, you know, 18 patients a day. And honestly, if I had to do that right now, I think I would just give it up. But a pelvic therapist, it's all one-on-one for, you know, a full hour. And actually with my patient visits at home, I often see patients for an hour and a half.
So it's kind of nice how you've set up your business model to really help your clients, and not only in terms of time, but to be able to spend more quality time with them as well. So what inspired you to start this business?
I'm really, I just was a little bit tired of working quite so hard with that back-to-back patient flow. Even when I was treating patients in outpatient orthopedics, it was every hour for 8 or 9 hours. And in pelvic therapy, there are a lot of therapists that are going out on their own, and we're kind of getting away from the insurance-based model. And so most of us don't bill insurance. It's all out of network, which, is paid at a different rate. And, patients do kind of understand that. And I think that the whole concierge medicine practice has sort of come into vogue nowadays, where so many of the physicians are frustrated with the system that's very fragmented. And so there are many of us in this field that are kind of going off on our own. And I was inspired to do that myself.
And I'm assuming that's kind of part of a trend that's happening now in your industry, correct?
Yeah. So not only a trend for concierge medicine where they're getting away from the insurance-based model, but even the home visits are. And there's a number of other physicians that are doing that.
So what is a belief strategy that you held strongly in the past that has completely changed?
Well, I have to say that, sometimes we set up to go a certain path. And initially I was going to be sharing space with a urogynecologist. And month after month, I, was working on this plan, and it ended up kind of falling apart in the end. And it's opened the door for me to do home visits because I was getting a little antsy. I missed seeing my patients. So I started doing home visits with the intent of that being a temporary situation. And then the more I did it, the more I realized that it was so intimate and so comfortable, because the patients are able to be in their own home. They don't have to drive. They don't have to wait in the waiting room. They have their own, their own background. And so it's great for your new moms who have newborns at home. It's great for the seniors that don't want to drive, people that are in, pelvic pain, people that work at home and can kind of make their own schedule. So the long and short of it is something that turned out to be starting out at temporary kind of, plan turned into something that I'm very comfortable with. And now I am a home-based business and a mobile practice, and I love it.
It kind of, you're sharing with our listeners how to overcome adversity, right? You're taking something that you were straight on looking at in terms of the office space. It didn't work out. You took a negative and you made it to a positive. So kudos for you for being able to not dwell on that negative and focus more on the positive. So that's very inspirational.
Absolutely.
So what is one of the most unexpected lessons that you've learned from running your business? Anything that kind of stands out, maybe 1 or 2 pointers?
Well, I would say that patience is a virtue, because, we jump into it and we just, we want success. We want it, fast. We want to, get the fruits of our labor. And, quite honestly, it takes time. And I think that first year, you've got to be prepared to, really put the effort into it. And, you don't always get the results quickly, but, you just keep showing up, you keep networking, you keep, staying focused on your business plan. And, it's been 11 or 10 months now. And so I'm just now starting to get a little bit of traction and feeling like I'm starting to get more referrals. I've met some wonderful new people, which I would never have met under normal circumstances working for a company. And it's been a lot of fun because I've met a lot of great people who are out there doing similar things that I'm doing in the business world.
So as we look to wrap this up, and that's great advice that you gave to patience. Patience is a virtue. And a lot of people who are listening to this, sometimes you said, it doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes time.
It does.
And so being able to present and say that word for our listeners to at least take a hold of is it's awesome. So as we wrap up here, we do have people who are listening that are inspiring to be entrepreneurs, maybe in your industry or some other industry. Can you give any advice on what to look for?
I would like to recommend an organization that's been very helpful for me, and I had no idea that this existed. And over by the Fashion Square, there's something called the Entrepreneur Center. And they have so many organizations within this suite that are such a great resource. And I think that they have helped me tremendously. You can actually go on to you can get involved with the Small Business Administration. They also offer some counseling. They offer mentoring. And so that's been really a great resource for me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is awesome. I appreciate that. So what's the best way that our listeners can get a hold of you, whether it's your phone number, your website that you can share?
Sure. So they can get a hold of me by email at sandy@pelvicprotherapy.com. They can also go to my website, pelvicprotherapy.com. They can find my contact information there, including my phone number. There are a number of videos on there that I did from a book that I published about painful intercourse. So there's some stretching, some breathing, some mechanics on how to use some of the tools. And, I've got quite a few resources on my website itself. So feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to get to know you better.
Well, Sandi, thank you so much for, taking time out of your busy schedule to interact with our listeners and kind of share your beliefs, your strategies for your business. And we wish you much success in the near future as well.
Thank you so much, DDA. It's been nice talking to you, and I wish you success as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to First Media Consulting Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe today. To nominate a business you would like to recommend to be on our show, go to firstmediaconsulting.com or call. Thank you for listening.